Hi, I'm Emahu Mahaba, and this is a guide on how to configure AutoSplit to work with Chameleon Twist 1. This guide assumes that you already have Live Split configured and a way to display your video capture. And we can have links in the video description for setting any of those up. So, with that, we will get started. So, the first thing you're going to want to do is to download TOEFL's AutoSplit, and we're just going to go over to the latest version here and download this zip file. Just left click the blue link and it'll automatically download. And we're going to extract this to a folder that is good for safekeeping. You don't want it somewhere that you might have to move it, because if it gets moved, you're going to have to change your split folder to wherever you move it in the software. So I'm just going to do it on the desktop for this example, but when I'm using it, I personally keep mine in my documents folder. So we're going to extract this to its own folder and then pull this to the desktop. The name of this folder does not matter, so I'm just going to have it AutoSplit. Within AutoSplit, you're going to want to create a new folder, and I'll call this CT1. And it's important that if you do any different routes, any different games with this, that they're in their own game folder. You don't want two settings files in the same folder, or the program won't work properly. So within CT1, I'm going to create a folder titled Split Images. And then we're going to open AutoSplit. So the first thing we want to do in AutoSplit is set our split image folder. And I'm going to set that to the split images folder that I just created. So we're going to select that. And now we need to select our window or region that we're going to be using for our game capture. I'm using Amarak. You can use VLC Media Player or OBS. It's very important that once you set this, that you don't change it. It needs to be, the window needs to be the same size and shape as it was when you take the screenshots, because the screenshots need to match. So I'm going to select window and click Chameleon, or click Amarak. And then we want to make sure loop split images and auto start on reset are not selected, as well as this group dummy splits checkbox, because we're not using those for this. Make sure live capture region is checked off, otherwise you won't see anything happening. And then I personally recommend using hotkeys that are not ones that can be typed into a text box. But you need these hotkeys here to match exactly what you have set in Live Split. And so I'm going to use home and page up, page down, pause. For this game, I've found that 0.85 is the most useful similarity threshold. This is how similar your screen needs to be to the screenshot for it to trigger a split. And then I set a pause time of 3 seconds. That's just the time that the program waits between a successful split and starting the ability to trigger another split. We'll set this to 30 frames per second because we don't need more, and that'll lower the CPU usage. And so now we actually need to start taking our screenshots. So what I'm going to do is in game, I'm going to start by creating the reset screenshot, because that's the earliest one we have access to. I personally use the screen with Fred selected because it's not the first chameleon shown. So if you accidentally hit new game during a run, it won't reset your run on you. I wouldn't use Jack or Davy. Davy because it's the first one that's shown. Jack because his color is close enough to Davy's that it might confuse the two in a screenshot. You could use Linda. I would use Linda or Fred. And so I'm going to click take screenshot. And what's going to happen is this is going to automatically pop up and it'll automatically save to your split image folder. So now I have this split image. And this is my reset image, so this needs a specific name. So I'm going to name this reset underscore, and in parentheses, I'm going to put 0.95 underscore. In brackets, I'm going to put 5. So in this image title, the 0.95 in parentheses is the similarity threshold override. So this image has to be 0.95 similar instead of the default 0.85 that we have set. As well as this 5 here is the amount of seconds that AutoSplit has to wait into a run before this image will be considered for resetting your run. So if you were to show Fred at 3 seconds, this would not reset your game or your run. So now we want to get our start AutoSplitter frame, and that screenshot needs to be the white screen after I've selected a chameleon. This one can be a little awkward to get because you have to click it at pretty much just the right time. So I'm going to hit A and then take screenshot. And as you can see, I have a white screen populated for my most recent screenshot. And so we're going to name this. This also needs a specific name because it's AutoSplit's already programmed to look for the name we're going to give it. And that is start underscore auto underscore splitter. So now we need to take screenshots for, there's going to be one screenshot that counts for every level except for the last one. And so I'm going to load into the first boss fight. And we're going to take this when the white screen is at about 50% when it's fading away. We don't want it to be full white because then it'll look like the start screen. And we don't want it to be full black because there are a lot of times in this game when the screen is fully black, and we don't want the game to accidentally split when just because we changed or walked through a door. So I'm going to screenshot now. Now we only need 3 of these for any percent. So I'm going to copy this image and I'm going to paste it twice. And then we are going to name these for the 3 splits that we have before Ghost Castle. If you're doing 100%, you would just do extra copies of this image for the other levels. So we're going to name the first one 001 underscore jungle land underscore. We don't need the underscore right now. The second one we're going to name 002. The numbers are important. It tells the program which numbered split it is, so it looks at the right file. And we'll call this one 003 underscore kids land. There will be a point later where we need to edit the names of these files to add in a delay because this image is a little bit before we actually want to split, but we can add a delay in milliseconds to tell it how long to wait before actually triggering the split after it sees that image. So now there's only one more image that we need to get. And to get that, I'm going to exit out of here and load into the final fight. So the screenshot that I take here is the full white screen once the final fight is over. There's not a more consistent screen than that, unfortunately. So at the moment, it's going to split a bit late. I'm also not very good at the final fight. Okay. You can go a little earlier than that, but I'm trying to get a very consistent screen so that I can get to a point where I know it's within a tenth of a second of, say, 3 seconds late. And so we're going to name this image just like we were naming the other ones. And so these are all the split images that you should need for your run, assuming you're doing any percent. Now what we have to do is you'll actually have to do a run so that you can time the time gap between the program splitting and when you actually want it to split, which is when the white screen is fully faded out. And that is what we will do now. So this is the recording that I took of a run so that I could time the gap between AutoSplit splitting and when I want it to split. So we're just going to show how much time we need to set on a delay for our splits here. So it split at 424.7. And we want it to split at 425.7. This was consistent across all three of the normal splits for my run. So I'm going to set a 1 second delay on these split images, and we're going to do that in the image file names. So the way that this is handled is with milliseconds, and we're going to want to program a 1 second delay into our each of these three split images with our image name. So the way that AutoSplit handles that is after your split image title, you're going to go underscore pound symbol and then the amount of milliseconds that you want the program to delay before it enters the split into live split. And this should be consistent. Anyone that's setting this up, it should be about the same delay for all of your splits. So when you're completely done configuring AutoSplit, your split image folder should look like this. Earlier in the video, I did have a typo in the reset name, as well as the start AutoSplitter name. So you'll want to make sure that those match these exactly. So a couple of things that you might run into when you're setting this up are that your splits might not occur when you expect them to. It might just keep going on the previous split. If it's not splitting, you may need to decrease this default similarity threshold, and that'll be a little bit more lenient about what image it's splitting on. If you find that it's splitting too frequently, you may need to increase this default similarity threshold, and the program will be a bit more strict about when it splits. Um, the other thing that you'll run into is having to kind of dial in this similarity threshold for your reset image. The 0.95 in the demo was not working for me. That was causing any of the chameleons to reset, whereas with this 0.99, only Fred is resetting my runs, so that's what I was looking to get. So now what you need to do with AutoSplit configured is save your settings file, and there's a couple of things you can do with this. So you're going to go File, Save As. Now if you overwrite the original settings.pkl file, AutoSplit will automatically open with this set of settings each time you open it because it's sitting in the same folder. However, you can only have one settings file per folder I've found. So just for the sake of potentially creating more routes or categories at a later date, I'm just going to go into my CT1 folder and I'm going to name this so that I know exactly what category this is for. And so now the next time that you open up AutoSplit, you'll have to click File, Load Settings, and you're just going to go to the PKL file that you just created. And it's a good idea when you start AutoSplit to click Reload Start Image. So one thing to note is that the final split currently is not completely consistent. I haven't figured out a way to get this to work exactly how you'd want it. If you would prefer to manually split the final split, you can use a split image that will never show up on the screen. So if you wanted to just use a random image or take a screenshot of another game or anything, that should work fine. If you are going to use it for the final split, you're going to find it's probably going to split around 3 seconds late. So this is the test run that I did. So you can see it should have split at 15:03.4. And it didn't split until 15:06.4. I've seen about 0.3 of a second in inconsistency on how late it will split. We're still trying to figure out how to make that work better and see if there's a way to actually make it split when it should. But it's pretty tough when you have to use inconsistent visual cues. So the white screen is the most consistent thing I've been able to find. So yeah, the last thing you'll need to do is just go through a whole run, make sure your reset frame works, make sure your splits are all working properly, and we're going to try to make that final split work a little better and see if there's a way to split before the books fight as you enter the door, because I know some people do that. If you've gone through this and you're still having trouble with something, feel free to ask in the Chameleon Twist Discord or in the comments, and we'll definitely see what we can do to get you going. And it should work for Chameleon Twist 2 and other Chameleon Twist categories, so definitely feel free to give it a try and see how it works for you. So that's all I've got for this tutorial, and like I said, if you have any questions, definitely don't hesitate to ask, and we'll see what we can do. Thanks for watching.